Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty wild, how a simple, single piece of pink paper basically mapped out the entire evolution of football fandom. We're going to trace this whole journey from a slow burn, deeply local obsession all the way to the instant gratification, globalized digital economy we're all living in today. It's a story about tech, journalism, and honestly how we consume information as a society. Now, I want you to picture something for a second. Long before the glow of your smartphone was giving you real-time updates and curated highlight reels, the weekend sports ritual had a very specific sensory experience attached to it. Our source material points out that it was defined by this sharp, intoxicating smell of newsprint. And it wasn't just the smell of paper, It was literally the scent of certainty. Millions of fans relied entirely on this physical object to just verify the reality of their weekend. Section 1. The Saturday Pink Ritual. A physical testament to the afternoon's highs and lows. So we're talking about the era of the pink papers. This was a vibrant object that served as the absolute, indisputable final word on Saturday's football action all across the UK. But that brings up a really obvious question, right? Why pink? Why was this highly distinct salmon color the go-to for weekend sportscapers in cities like Leeds, Birmingham, and Sheffield for basically the entire 20th century? Well, it turns out the answer is just sheer utility. You have to rewind back to the era of hot metal typesetting. With these frantic evening deadlines, the pink paper was essentially an instant visual signal on super crowded newsstands. Fans who were hunting for final scores, match reports, and league tables didn't even have to search. That bright flash of salmon pink, it told them instantly that the late evening edition was hot off the press and ready to go. And think about how massive of a shift this is in how we get our data. Back then, if you were standing on the terraces watching a game, you had literally no way of knowing how the other matches in the league had played out. You just had to wait to hear the rustle of that physical, tactile penny paper unfolding on a street corner. I mean, it was basically the original live score app, right? Just distilled into a physical form that cost a penny or two and required a genuine desire to find out the truth. Today, obviously, we just have the instant gratification of digital apps. Section 2. The Frenzy Shift. The Journalism of the Immediate. This all builds into the incredibly high-stakes world of the journalists who actually put this paper together. They brought this insane energy to what we would now consider slow news. The journalists working the pink beat were honestly a breed apart, dealing with a terrifyingly tight timeline. Just look at this. Step 1. The matches finish up around 4:45 p.m. Step 2. Reporters had to instantly bang out punchy, evocative, and wildly accurate reports under massive pressure. And step 3, the very first print runs absolutely had to be hitting the streets by 6 p.m. That is just an incredibly tight turnaround. But here's the crazy part. Despite the massive rush, the quality was absolutely astounding. We're talking forensic depth written in a frantic hurry. These reporters were zeroing in on key tactical moments, crafting these vivid descriptions of goals that, honestly, were often way more engaging than watching the television highlights. They were quite literally the architects of the weekend narrative. And through that, they built this deep, vital connection with the community. You see, the Pink didn't really care about the national narrative. It was hyper-focused on local pride. It told the story of the city back to itself. These journalists were the ones deciding who the heroes and the goats of the Saturday match were. Whenever a local club got relegated or a massive derby match was won, the Pink provided the definitive printed account. These were the exact pages fans would clip out and glue into scrapbooks for decades. Section 3. The Digital Tide Rises. The Slow Erosion of a Weekend Institution. Look, technology never stands still, right? And this incredibly successful but super labor-intensive model was just destined for an inevitable decline. We can actually track this through 3 specific technological assassins. First up, in the 80s and 90s, we saw the rise of 24/7 media and TV results shows. The Vidiprinter era started making printed scores a bit redundant. I mean, why wait on a street corner for a paper when you can just watch the scores scroll right across your TV screen? Then, early 2000s, the internet hits and provides real-time match feeds. And finally, the knockout blow by the late 2000s, the economics completely collapsed. Advertising revenue shifted heavily to search engines and social media, meaning the regional newspapers funding these operations just couldn't sustain the massive expense anymore. And that leads to a pretty sad reality. Match reports started becoming obsolete before they could even be printed. The Pink was this massive labor of love. It required a huge workforce of printers, delivery drivers, and journalists all going at breakneck speed. But at the end of the day, they just couldn't compete with a digital feed that was updating second by second. Section 4, the legacy of slow news, the DNA of the pink in modern sports media. Even though the physical paper is now mostly sitting in archives and museum collections, its influence is literally everywhere. The pink taught us how to consume sports media. Think about it. It established our modern expectation for that really detailed post-match breakdown. It basically birthed the absolute obsession with player ratings that turn into local legends. And it cemented the importance of a local perspective, even as the game itself went totally global. When you're watching a super detailed tactical deep dive on YouTube today, you are fundamentally looking for the exact same thing fans wanted on street corners decades ago, the story behind the score. It represents a massive, broader cultural shift. We've completely transitioned from the slow news era, where gathering information at a specific time and place was this satisfying, quiet ritual in a noisy world, to the digital age era, where information is just constant, ambient background noise. Tracking down that paper to verify a result in bold black ink, that was a physical verification of the game. Now, speed and endless accessibility have completely replaced that ritual. But honestly, here is the ultimate takeaway. The papers vanished, but the hunger for the story remains. The football pink was never just about a list of scores. It was always about the shared experience of the day. As long as we keep discussing, dissecting, and obsessing over every single goal and match, the spirit of the pink lives on in every single conversation we have about the sport. So, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought straight from our source material. The football pink was just as much about the physical ritual of gathering information as it was about the news itself. So consider this. Does the loss of such tangible, localized media outlets fundamentally weaken the connection between a club and its local community? Or do you think digital media has actually managed to successfully replicate that sense of shared regional identity? Think about what we've gained in speed and maybe what we might have lost in connection the very next time you check a score on your screen. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.